I'm Lisa Pickering, and welcome to CITV's Press Talk. Here's your most recent news and information from the government of Bermuda.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the press. Good afternoon, Bermuda. I understand we're live. The Parliament is soon to consider legislation consequential to the government's plan to invite a substantial capital injection into the island that will lift our economy, create desperately needed jobs and new opportunities for entrepreneurs, and provide us with a new strategic asset, a new first-class airport terminal building. The needs for the airport have been well established and long known, but the solution has been hampered by Bermuda's debt burden and an annual fiscal deficit, both of which, as you know, the government has been addressing. So we don't have the money to simply hire somebody, hire someone to build it, and it is not prudent to go deeper into debt by borrowing more money. The UK government, as you may recall, provided an entrustment letter as we proceeded with discussions with the Canadian Commercial Corporation, or CCC, a Crown Corporation of Canada, and their designated contractor, Aecon Incorporated, to see if we could come to terms to make a new airport terminal a reality. Consulting firm Deloitte was contracted jointly by the Bermuda and UK governments to conduct an independent appraisal of the method of procurement for the redevelopment of Bermuda's airport using CCC. The purpose of this engagement was to evaluate the business case, the value for money, and affordability of the existing proposal, and to provide a high-level cost-effectiveness opinion for the proposal being put forward. The engagement also assessed whether the existing analysis and documentation on the proposed Bermuda Airport redevelopment was sufficient to support an investment decision based on HM Treasury's Green Book guidance for the evaluation of public sector spending proposals. It's important to note that HM Treasury's Green Book prescriptions assume a competitive bid process, not a P3. We are using an incremental process for procurement for this project in the form of a P3. And while the Bermuda government is not obliged to follow Green Book prescriptions, we accepted the Green Book guidance as some of the highest in the world with regard to public sector procurement. So we used the findings of the Deloitte report to enhance the due diligence of the project. Last week, Monday, I provided Parliament with an overview of the airport redevelopment transaction for members of Parliament. It was the first fulsome public description of the transaction that would bring Bermuda its first purpose-built airport. It was also released directly to the press on Wednesday. On Friday, we further released to the press the requested overall business case entrustment report and an independent assessment on value for money report. In doing so, we have now fulfilled the requirements of the entrustment letter established by the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, laid out the full business case as proposed by Deloitte. The value for money assessment highlights how the airport redevelopment project compares with similar P3 deals, and concludes that overall, the project achieves value for money for the people of Bermuda. The summary provides the highlights of the comprehensive overall business case entrustment report that fulfills the entrustment requirements established by the Foreign and Commonwealth Office and addresses the gaps identified by the Deloitte report. These reports, made public last week, have provided a thorough and detailed analysis and concludes the government is taking the best course of action under our current circumstances. This is verified by the independent assessor. So in a nutshell, this work says a few things. A, it demonstrates that the project is supported by a robust case for change. B, it describes the analysis undertaken by the government to optimize value for money. C, it shows that the project is commercially viable. D, it outlines the government's view that the project is financially affordable. And E, it provides evidence that the project can be delivered successfully. The reports further show that this transaction provides value for money, and all of the gaps identified by the Deloitte report have been addressed. Bermudians should know that after careful consideration and much consultation with leading experts, the government is satisfied that the CCC solution is not only the best solution to a pressing problem, but will bring many advantages and will be useful to the long-term future of Bermuda and Bermudians. Those are my formal comments, and of course, I'm happy to take any of your questions. Are you taking pictures or are you asking a question, Ciola? Oh, okay.
No questions? I haven't seen any overall business case entrustment report. Is that coming today?
It's on the government website.
Mr. Richards, this is going to Parliament next week, I presume. Are you anticipating a battle with the other side, and is there any opportunity or is there any risk of option of this thing not going through Parliament?
No, I'm confident it'll pass through Parliament, and we are ready for any battle or opposition. We're ready.
And what will be the timetable after that?
It has to go through the Senate, even though it is a money bill, so it won't be voted on in the Senate. And you might find us surprising, but the lawyers are still duking it out on some of the fine points of the agreement. But I expect that will be done shortly thereafter. We're still looking at signing the project agreement somewhere in early December. And after that, away you go.
Did you think it would take you 2 years to get to this point?
No, I never thought it would take this long. But, I guess I'm naturally optimistic, but I really didn't think it would be this hard.
But it'd be worth it.
I think so. Let's not count chickens before they're hatched. We're just dealing with legislation here. You don't have anything on the ground. So we're still a long way to go. But I do believe sincerely that once the project starts and Bermudians start getting employed and people start to see stuff coming out of the ground, and once the project is finished and the terminal opens, people are going to see what we in the government see.
3 years.
Yeah, 40 months.
So your initial timeline for breaking ground before Christmas at a previous press conference still stands?
Well, in some ways, we've already broken ground in some ways, because there's a pipeline that runs across the site that we're now having to dig up and replace. So if you go down to the airport, you see some guys working on it now. But the main effort is a little bit behind schedule.
So for those questioning the move today by Move, which was a mediocre protest, There are a lot of Bermudians that feel this is a done deal. What's your reaction to today's protest?
Well, I'm not sure what the word done deal means in this context. We haven't signed the agreement, and I just finished telling you the lawyers are still duking it out in fine points. Certainly the material aspects of the deal are agreed. I've already said that. You know, the costs, the risks have been clearly defined. The timing, the design, all that stuff is done. But we still haven't raised the money. I shouldn't say me. We, ACON, still haven't raised the money yet. So we still have that hurdle to do, and that cannot be done until we get this legislation passed. What do we mean by a done deal? Do we mean that we have general agreement? Oh, sure, we have general agreement. But done deal isn't done until it's done. And it won't be a done deal till the ink is dry on the paper and people start working down there at the airport. That's when at least the transaction is complete. It's what we call financial close. And financial close means we've signed the paper and we've gotten the money from Wall Street. And then we can start. That hasn't happened yet.
Good afternoon, Minister. Do you ever have any regrets that if the project had been put out to tender, then perhaps you would have more support for this project going forward?
If the project had been put out to tender, we would have wasted another X years, right? One thing I'd like to point out, and of course, past history is no guarantee of future results, as we used to say in the investment business, but one important thing is important to note, that there has never been an off-balance sheet tender process that's been successful for an airport this size. Never. They've tried it in a few of the other islands and it has not worked. So, we just have to sort of live in the reality that surrounds us. That, and that wasn't the reason why we chose to go this route. That wasn't the reason. I found that out afterwards, quite frankly. But some folks think that have this notion that somehow this tender process is magical. It isn't. And all you have to do is look around Bermuda and see how much it's cost us in overruns. What we set out to do is to have a project and a process that mitigates the risks. We're all about risk management here. Because when you look back at our recent history, not even recent, you go back to UBP days, right? You had major projects that have just run amok in terms of cost overruns. You know what? The Bermuda economy and the Bermuda government was in the financial position where, hey, didn't matter very much. Just paid the difference. But now, when we owe almost $2.4 billion, I cannot stand up here as a Minister of Finance and put my blessing on that kind of process. Can't do it. It would be irresponsible of me, and you and everybody in Bermuda would rightfully kick my backside to the curb, right? So you got to take your responsibility serious. We're in a financial bind, but we still want to do this. We got to find the best way to do it. Now, if the best way means that we don't use the tender process, I'm fine with that, because I know that really hasn't been great for us in the past. And I know that the risks involved with the tender process, I can control almost to the dollar. And if you look at the risks and the rewards, we've got the best deal here.
So in layman's terms, you still feel that, because the one concern I'm hearing is the signing off of revenue for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
You still say because we have no money, it's best to just send this revenue straight out to Canada?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. No, I'm glad you asked that question. I'm glad you asked that question, because that is a commonly held misconception. All right. There is some revenue that's being transferred to the entity we call Project Co. for now. It's going to get its real name very shortly. That revenue gets transferred over there. But the notion that somehow that money is going up to Canada is false. Totally false. That money is going to go to operate the airport. You're going to pay salaries, all that sort of stuff. It's going to go to maintain the airport. It's going to go to pay the interest on the debt. It's going to go to pay back the capital of the debt. There's a whole lot of things that's got to be paid off before anything goes to Canada. And by the way, the deal that we've struck, which is really something that I think has been kind of overlooked by members of, dare I say, members of the press, is that what we've accomplished in negotiations here is pretty spectacular, whereby the actual owners, ACON and their equity owners, once they get back their money from dividends, the money that they invest, I think it's about $63 million, once they get back their money in dividends, all other profits after that get shared 50-50 with the government of Bermuda. So there's no sending millions of dollars back to Canada. That money is being spent on our asset, our airport, right? And what profit goes back after their initial investment is shared half and half between Bermudians and the other investors. So there's no sort of shipping money overseas. That is a complete misconception.
So one further question, in layman's terms, what do you say to the layman critics that say once they get their money back, and in the interim, why they can't pay their own light bill? Why does it have to come out of my pocket?
Because we are partners in the deal. The Bermuda government and Project Co and their investments are in a partnership. It's called a public-private partnership. And when you have a partnership, one set of partners puts up stuff, and the other partner puts up stuff. Okay, what are they putting up? Well, they're raising the money, they've got the expertise, they're designing it, they're building it. Okay, that's what they're putting up, and they've promised to run it at an IATA optimum level standard. So that's what they're contributing. We have to make contributions. Bermuda has to make contributions. What are we contributing? Well, it's our land, obviously. We're contributing by transferring those revenues that you talked about, transferring those revenues to Project Co. That's another one of our contributions. Well, some of our other contributions are subsidizing electricity and those sort of things that we call retained services that we're still paying for. We are making those contributions to make this project work financially, right? So we make our contributions, they make their contributions, and hopefully the two sets of contributions are enough to make the project work financially. Because if it doesn't work financially, you know, we can pass legislation, we can sign agreements, we can do all kinds of stuff. But when we go to Wall Street to get that money, we're not going to get it if it doesn't work financially. The project is not economical. The Wall Street people have figured it out, and we won't get the money. So that's the reason why we have to chuck in things. They have to chuck in things. And between a lot of us, as a private-public partnership, we can get this thing to work.
Question. Has the UK Foreign Commonwealth Office gave the okay with that you've met the obligations in the entrustment letter?
Yes. Well, we sent out the papers to the governor Friday. And they're not required to say anything. I mean, it's just a bit odd, but they're not required to say, yes, you know, it's what's required is for the government to send us information and say that, you know, this fulfills the requirement of the entrustment. I mean, that is what officially gets done. But you know, unofficially, we've gone back and forth with them, and everybody is on board that what we've done satisfies the requirements. I have to say this, though, our friends at Wall Street need some sort of letter of comfort from the Foreign Commonwealth Office to say that Bermuda has done what it has to do under this entrustment letter, because we need to show the investors that we have the authority to do this deal, the legal authority.
And once that happens, you're confident they can raise the capital?
Yes.
What happens if they don't?
Well, then we all lose. But you know what? We have been working with them. We've been working with the rating agencies. We've got a preliminary credit rating of A- for this project. And that's completely separate from Bermuda, because Bermuda's credit rating is A+, okay? But this project as a standalone project with the contributions that I've described, right, has enabled this project to get preliminarily an A- rating. So we should be able to get the money that we need.
So to those who protesters today, waste of time?
I can't comment on their, what, you know, I've had a meeting with them before at Devonshire Rec, and unfortunately it wasn't a very pleasant meeting. But you know, that's the nature of democracy, and they're entitled to their opinions.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
You've been watching Press Talk on CITV. Join us next time for all your government news and information. I'm Lisa Pickering.